You've been doing this wrong. Everything looks fine. You walk into a store, shelves are full. Food is everywhere, and yet, your fridge is always empty again in a few days. Money goes out, food disappears, and the cycle repeats. But here's the part nobody tells you. There are families who don't live like this at all. No grocery bills, no weekly shopping, no dependence on supply chains. And somehow, their shelves stay full every single day of the year. It doesn't make sense till you see it. A quiet farm, no machines humming, no chemicals, no rush, just rows of food, stretching further than you expect. And that's when you notice something strange. They're not buying food. They're not even really growing food the way you think. They've built something else entirely, something that keeps producing long after planting season is over. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most people think growing food is about planting more, and it makes sense. More seeds, more space, more effort. But the reality is, that's exactly why most people never produce enough. And that's the mistake. Because what the Amish are doing isn't gardening. It's a system. A system where food feeds food, where waste becomes fuel, where nothing actually stops growing. And once you see how it works, you start to realize something unsettling. Food was never supposed to cost you this much. But here's the real question. If they're not spending money, they're not constantly working harder, then how are they producing enough food to feed an entire family every single day, all year long, without running out? And more importantly, what are they doing that you're not? Because once you understand the system, you don't just grow food. You stop depending on it altogether. And that's where everything changes. The hidden system behind Amish abundance. It's not gardening. It's something much bigger. And this is where everything changes. Most people think the Amish just have really big gardens. Rows of vegetables, simple tools, hard work. And it makes sense, because that's what it looks like on the surface. But the reality is, you copy what you see, you still won't get the results. And that's the mistake. Because what they've built is not a garden. It's a closed-loop food system. But here's the part nobody tells you. A garden is something you maintain. A system is something that maintains itself. And that difference is everything. At first glance, you see crops, but look closer. You start noticing patterns, animals moving through spaces, compost piles constantly changing, water flowing without pumps, soil that looks alive. And suddenly, you realize, nothing here exists on its own. Everything is connected. Most people grow food like this. You plant seeds, you water them, you add fertilizer, you fight pests, you harvest, and then you start over again every single season. But here's the interesting part. That system is completely dependent on you. If you stop, everything stops. And that's why it never scales. Now compare that to the Amish system. It doesn't reset every season. It evolves. Each part feeds the next. And this is where most people miss it. They're not growing plants. They're managing relationships. Why most people fail to grow enough food, and this is exactly why your garden never feeds you. It looks productive. It feels successful. Green leaves, fresh harvests, baskets of vegetables. But then something doesn't add up. You're still going to the store, still buying food, still spending money. And it makes no sense because you are growing food. So why isn't it enough? But here's the part nobody tells you. You're probably growing the wrong kind of food. And that's where everything starts to break. Most people think, if I just grow more, I'll have enough. And it makes sense. More plants, more harvest, more abundance. But the reality is, you can fill an entire garden, still not produce enough calories to survive. And that's the mistake. The Amish soil system, everything starts here. If your soil is weak, everything collapses. Most people think soil is just dirt. But the reality is, soil is alive. The Amish don't feed plants. They feed soil. compost, manure, organic matter, building a living ecosystem underground. And once the soil is alive, everything above it becomes stronger. Growing calories, not just vegetables. Salads don't feed families. This does. Most gardens look abundant, but don't provide real energy. The Amish grow for calories. Potatoes, corn, beans, crops that store energy, last long, and feed a family. The Amish crop rotation engine, they don't repeat crops. They rotate them. Each crop restores something the previous one took. And over time, the soil doesn't weaken. It gets stronger. Companion planting that multiplies yield. Plants don't compete. They support each other. Corn, beans, squash, working together. One system, multiple outputs, higher yield, less effort. Animals, the missing piece everyone ignores. Plants alone can't complete the system. Animals are the engine. They turn waste into fertilizer. They feed the soil, and they close the loop. Water independence, the silent advantage. They don't rely on taps, and neither should you. Everything can look perfect. Healthy soil, strong crops, good planning. But then, one dry stretch hits, and everything starts collapsing. Leaves wilt, growth slows, yields drop. But here's the part nobody tells you. Water isn't just something you add, it's something you design for. Most people think, if my plants need water, I'll just give it to them, and it makes sense. Turn on a tap, use a hose, problem solved. But the reality is, that system is fragile. Because the moment water becomes a dependency, your entire system becomes unstable. And that's the mistake. The Amish don't water plants. They build systems that hold water. They capture rain. They build soil that retains moisture. They protect it with mulch, and suddenly, water stops being a daily problem. Food preservation. The real secret to year-round supply. Growing food is easy. Keeping it is the real skill. The harvest comes in. Abundance, overflow, more than expected. But then, it disappears. Food spoils. Rot sets in, waste builds. And suddenly, all that effort leads right back to the store. But here's the truth. A harvest means nothing if you can't extend it. Most people think growing enough is the goal. But the reality is, without preservation, abundance turns into loss. And that's the mistake. The Amish don't just grow food. They control time, canning, drying, fermentation. Root cellars. Food doesn't disappear. It lasts. And that's how they eat all year round. The Amish seed-independent system, they never need to buy seeds again. Most people don't question it. Every year, they go back and buy seeds again. It feels normal, but the reality is, if you have to buy seeds, you don't control your food system. And that's the mistake. The Amish don't just grow food. They reproduce it. They save seeds from the best plants. Stronger plants create stronger seeds. Each generation improves the next. And over time, the system becomes completely self-sustaining. The compounding food loop multiplier effect, this is where everything connects. Soil feeds crops. Crops feed animals. Animals feed soil. Nothing is wasted. Everything cycles. And each cycle improves the next. Better soil gives stronger crops, gives more organic matter, gives even better soil. A T, and the loop keeps strengthening. This is what most people miss. It's not about doing more. It's about connecting everything. The biggest mistakes that destroy food independence, most people fail right here. Not at the beginning, but when things start working, they expand too fast. Add too much, break the balance. And everything collapses. Because this system doesn't reward speed. It rewards stability. Small mistakes compound over time. And that's why most people quit. Not because it doesn't work, but because they unknowingly broke it. The hidden trick Amish farmers don't talk about. One thing most people don't know. It's not a tool. It's not a technique. It's how they think. They don't control nature. They observe it. They don't rush to fix every problem. They let the system balance itself. And that changes everything. Because instead of fighting the system, they work with it. The emotional payoff. True freedom, this isn't just about food. It's about freedom. Most people depend on buying food every day. The Amish don't. They produce first, consume second, and that changes everything. Because now, food doesn't come from a store. It comes from their system. And that creates real security. You don't have to build everything at once. Start small. One step, one system, one loop, and let it grow. Because once it starts, it builds on itself. Until one day, you're no longer depending on food. You're producing it.